One of the things I'm very, very serious about in our home is okay. One of the things I'm very serious about is rest. And I have had to do a lot of self-evaluation here because it was something that was really hard, especially in the beginning. I felt like I really needed that rest time, and I didn't know what to do or how to get it. And one of the things that I knew I really needed, and my mom actually helped me a lot with understanding this, was how important a rest time is. Just to break up the day right in the middle, so that there's a chance to just pause, take a breath, and keep going. And I knew that I really wanted that, but I didn't know how to get my children to do that. Napping was a tremendous struggle with my son, my first child, very, very much a struggle. And so I didn't know how to even think about the idea of enforcing rest when I didn't have a child who napped to begin with. And so I started with just, this has been like quite a journey, but what the Lord has taught me about rest and how much I have benefited from rest just as a child of God, and how rest is such an important part of my relationship with God. And it's so vital that I rest in Christ, that I abide in Christ, that I am still before the Lord. And there are ways that God helps us with that and helps us with rest. And so I've been looking for just the way that God does that with me, and using that knowledge and that understanding of how He is with me and teaching me to rest with Him, and using that for my kids. And I am having success with it. I mean, to the point where I can, at pretty much any time of day, tell the kids that it's time to take a rest, and they'll be quiet for 45 minutes, calm, quiet, peaceful resting. And I just want to share with you kind of how I got to that, and some of the things that we practice with that. So it starts with yourself. And I had to kind of ask myself these questions, and I would encourage you to do the same. What is your attitude toward rest? Do you feel guilty for resting? Do you not rest enough? What was the attitude around rest when you were growing up? Were you maybe in a family where people were more busy than they were resting? I first realized that I had a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with rest, and that I wasn't doing enough of it when I married into my husband's family, and they are nappers in a great way. I mean, they're just able to just listen and rest when they need to, and like it's okay, and the world doesn't end. And I remember being at their house and taking a nap and coming down and feeling so apologetic, like, I'm so sorry, I just needed that. My husband and I we did this long distance relationship, and so it was, even after so much travel to even get to their house, I just remember needing to take a nap, coming downstairs, being so sorry, and then the attitude was like, why are you sorry? And my attitude towards napping has been getting better ever since, napping and resting and just taking what my body needs. And so I just have been trying to develop a healthier sense of rest, and it starts with understanding, evaluating what my understanding is of how God feels about rest. And Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, these are some verses that are really helpful for me in this area. And it says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And even thinking back to like Psalm 23 in the beginning, how the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and He leads me beside the quiet waters. And Jesus even modeled that rest for His disciples. We see that in Mark 6:31. I'm not going to read it. You can go back and see that He basically sees that they're just tired. They've been working so much, and He just invites them to come away with Him and rest. So as a child of God, I have the right to rest. And I also have a responsibility to teach that rest to my children. So I know I need to have rest, and I know that I need to teach rest. And I have found that the most successful way to have both of those things is to model rest. So, because we can teach it that way and we can also experience it. So, children who struggle with resting, because it might sound overwhelming to think about getting your child all of a sudden to like start resting. It doesn't have to be napping, just like resting, just quietness, not just watching TV, but just like actual stillness, being okay with just being still with something quiet and just taking a break, taking a pause. And our attitude about this is important because a forced rest, like God doesn't force us to rest. He tells us what's available to us and he encourages us to do it, but he doesn't force it. And so it was important to me that I think it's obvious from all of my videos, but like I'm not going to spank my kids. So I knew that going into this, I was going to have kind of a strategy for just helping them do this, help them to understand rest and to be reliable in following through with rest because it was something that I needed to. So I had to kind of shift from this panic idea of like, I need rest, I need quiet. You guys need to do this for me. Because first of all, that's not healthy for a bunch of reasons. But that was like my initial thoughts about it. And I had to kind of reel myself in because first of all, it's important that we don't shift the responsibility of us onto our kids. So like my kids don't need to bear the burden of being a certain way to tend to my emotions. That's my job toward them. And I mean, I'm teaching them to be considerate, but they don't need to bear any burden whatsoever regarding me. I don't want to be a burden to them in that way. And so what I've really been shifting toward is going from that, you need to be quiet because I need peace and quiet, to saying more along the lines of, it's been a really busy day and I can tell that we're all feeling a little bit tired. And so right now we're going to take a rest. Why don't you get some books? I'll get some blankets. We're going to take a rest. And just really kind of leading into rest, setting it up for them. For the most part, what we do is both of my kids have their own throw blankets, and I use those things for so much for them. And I almost feel like I could do a whole video on just how I use their throw blankets to help me with training and all of that. It's really helpful. But they each have their own blanket. They set up their own space. Sometimes we just spread the blanket and they can pick one toy and a couple books and be on the blanket. But I just have them, be involved. Let's pick a part of this to do together. And I do the same thing. I model it for them the same way Jesus did for his disciples. I model that rest for my children. And now rest time is not a stressful experience. It's something that literally after it's been, half hour, 45 minutes, however long it needs to be, where my Elijah, who's 4, will just be like, I feel better now. And that's a healthy attitude about rest, because rest is something that was given to us as a gift and we are blessed to enjoy it. And it's something that my children are enjoying. And I want that attitude to be cultivated in them. So it's also very helpful, a child who understands how to rest, how to enjoy rest, how to just be okay, just being, is a very helpful thing. So some of the ways that we've practiced this, just practiced helping them being still, is we do just mindfulness activities where sometimes we'll just sit on the deck and we'll just be quiet and listen and draw pictures of what we're listening. Sometimes we'll just sit down with paper and we'll draw how we're feeling. Sometimes, and I participate in these things with them. Sometimes we just practice just being in the same room and just reading separate books. Just giving them opportunities to do that. I love the Frog and Toad books, and so and the pictures aren't very exciting, so the kids will sometimes just sit on the floor and just listen to me read, and that's a way that they're practicing being still and listening and following, and those are some of the ways that we practice. And obviously, my kids are 2 and 4, so my 2-year-old especially. Sometimes she does want to test if she has to stay on her blanket or stay in her area. And if she gets off, I don't have a problem sitting closer to her, guiding her back with saying, oh, rest time isn't over. We're going to feel so much better when we're finished. Or, oh, did you think you heard the timer? The timer's not done yet. Let's listen for it together. And those sorts of things. And just practicing and having a healthy attitude toward rest, holding the boundaries firmly about what you've set up. Maybe you just start with 3 minutes and work your way up from there, a minute every other day or something. But you start small, evaluate when you might need it, and if you want to have snacks, if you want to have drinks, whatever you want to do. I have a friend who does a big fruit bowl, and I thought that was such a great idea. I want to do that sometime this week, actually. But Those are just some of the areas I would encourage you to just say, how does God encourage me in rest? And how can I encourage my children in rest in a way that promotes peace in our home?